I analyzed how rich the play company behind the Garten of Ban Ban is to figure out how they can afford everything we've seen and what we can expect to find in the future, as I'm apparently dead set on discovering the deep riches beholden to all mascot horror companies. Garten of Ban Ban is set in a state-of-the-art kindergarten building that is entirely underground, and this company is so rich, so resourceful, and unyielding in its quest to make even more money off of bringing its mascots to life that its net worth is likely in the hundreds of billions, if not a zero or two higher than that. I mean, this kindergarten seems to go on for miles, with its elaborate hallways and rooms that stretch out into even more rooms, storage areas, playgrounds, labs that have no apparent design sense. We just know that it's big, and it contains floor after massive floor that continually descends downwards into a black abyss, with each level we reach getting worse than the last, as we run away from the dark mascots that now roam the halls. To know how much money the company behind Ban Ban's kindergarten has, we need to find out the value of all of its assets, pancreas-eating monsters and weird substance included, if we were to liquidate all of them into cold hard cash. And ho, putting a number to a city-sized playground / evil backrooms lab sure was interesting. To figure out this atomic-sized number, we have to go deeper and first know what this company actually is, what do they do, and thus what would they be likely to build and have lying around to sell. Ban Ban's kindergarten was supposedly the go-to kindergarten center for any parent that wanted their child to attend a highly reputable learning facility, and is so large that it is either an even larger mega-sized company or was backed by a government that sought to use it as a grounds to experiment in secret. But I'm gonna go with this thing being a mega-sized corporation, which has created what we have seen so far as somewhere over 30 mascots, bringing them all to life with an extremely special substance known as Givanium. Just as the word garten can be translated to garden of children, Givanium could be translated to something like give vein, which is what we see it more or less due to the mascots injected with it. And the company was doing well with its kindergarten. That, not knowing exactly how big this massive place is, could very well be the size of what an all-inclusive city-sized kindergarten of the future would be like, if any city in the world or parts of it were to be built entirely underground, something that some nations are looking at doing today. If this were to happen, and seeing how the game may very well take place in Montreal, Canada, thanks to the 2 boarding passes we found, a kindergarten of this freakish size, with the kindergarten age for kids in Montreal being 5 and 6, could be looking at taking in a heaping portion of Montreal's 95,200 kindergarten age students. If they succeeded in taking in 50% of those kids, with the average kindergarten price for the privately run Canadian school or daycare being upwards to $12,350 a year, Ban Ban's kindergarten would make around $587,860,000 a year. If they end up being a government-run operation, which I'm not so sure it is, then they make $0, as kindergarten is free in Canada. And this front to the company's true motives worked. Kids came in and out, and the company worked in secret to run its many experiments, injecting Play-Doh-like bodies molded to the shape of their mascots with the element known as Givanium, bringing them to life, most of which were labeled as not ready for presentation to the many happy kids and parents. Still though, the company promised to unveil something incredible at their Bring a Friend Day, and despite staff concerns for the unsound ball pit that might fall in at any second, and the many not ready mascots, they went ahead and unveiled their creations. But the ball pit that now sits as a gaping black hole collapsed, causing the mascots to divert to their primal instincts, tearing apart anyone in sight. However, the children were saved by the more intelligent jellyfish mascot Stinger Flynn, as the researchers ran for their lives, only for us, a parent desperately searching for their lost children, to walk in later and discover what this company was actually up to. So, when it comes to the company's true purpose of creating living mascots out of a special substance, these mascots ain't cheap and would sell for one heck of a price, let alone make you the Disney World of kindergartens. In a secret tape found in Chapter 2, we see the researchers molding a special Play-Doh-like substance, and with this game could very well just be Play-Doh or clay, into the shape of one of their many mascots, and then injecting it with what is most likely Givanium. Givanium that then acts as a sort of artificial blood for the monsters, literally growing anything from veins, organs like a heart, and vocal cords in their bodies. Some pretty magical stuff. We know that the company has used Givanium as of today on 32 subjects and counting, as we descend to even more floors, including everything from the likes of Ban Ban, Jumbo Josh and his siblings, Opula Bird, Tarta Bird and their chicks, Celine the Snail, Stinger Flynn, Sheriff Toadster, frickin' Zolphius, and many more names that I never thought I would be pronouncing, like Kittysaurus. This kindergarten had plans for the future, I tell you. Some of the creatures we meet, like Jumbo Josh, are created out of pure Givanium. That Givanium is the only thing, both blood and DNA-wise, coursing through his body. However, others like Ban Ban were given the DNA of both a Givanium and a human donor, causing them to take on the traits of their donor. As the head of the program, Dr. Uthman Adam gave his DNA to Ban Ban, who became just as equally intelligent and took on his name, while Bambolina was given the DNA of Weverly Mason, whose maternal instincts were passed on to her. Beyond this, though, others were given what the researchers found to be a maximum of 3 DNA sets, finding that if a mascot was ever to be given more than the 3 DNA types, the creature would become unstable, causing all but one of the creature's DNA sets to become completely inert, with experiments like Stinger Flynn containing the DNA equivalents of Givanium human and Atlantic sea nettle, making him both incredibly smart, apparently able to alter his size, and in Stinger Flynn's case, telepathic, while others like Slow Celine have their own enhanced ability like super speed. So how much would one of these monster mascots actually be worth if the company decided to sell them off? Seeing how monsters with only one DNA set like Jumbo Josh become hostile and quite hard to control, they may be deemed as less valuable than the more intelligent mascots with 2 DNA sets, who in turn are less valuable than the ones with 3, who are supposedly granted some form of superpower. Seeing how Ban Ban Co. may very well be the only company in the world to either both possess and be capable of harvesting or producing Givanium, however they got their hands on it, this would make their mascot monsters quite priceless, as no other government or company in the world has the means of making these things. They could literally upcharge the cost of a government flat out buying one of their monster mascots because they have no competitors. But if we had to put a number to it, seeing how each of the mascots can be programmed to be either a sort of worker or weapon of mass destruction, depending on what DNA is put into the chosen molded body that a buyer can specifically ask for, one of these guys, based off of the prices that other advanced weapons and technology that we've researched and gone over on this channel, could easily be worth somewhere around $500 million to $1 billion each. Maybe a little towards the lighter side of that spectrum, seeing how difficult and unstable these guys can be to handle. In total, that means that the company would currently possess somewhere around $16 to $32 billion worth of mascots that we've seen so far, with many more likely on the way. Not to mention, it's pretty easy for the company to just pump these things out by injecting clay with some DNA mixed with a bit of Givanium coming from any of the thousands of barrels they have lying around. I mean, Ban Ban Co. has a sheer monopoly on this magical life-giving element, and they have a lot of it to play with. But before we get to the absolute soul-crushing amount that this green stuff is worth, what would the cost of Ban Ban's entire underground kindergarten slash inconspicuous lab be? A facility that currently has an unknown amount of floors, giant rooms, and lab equipment to boot, that if anything goes so deep that it might as well be the size of an underground city, complete with its own heating and cooling, water and air systems, Wi-Fi, with a cost to not only construct but let alone dig out and then build, being one massive pretty penny. But it's all not only possible but even probable to happen sometime in our future, as entire countries like Singapore and Finland, with other cities around the world following suit, looking not at building skyscrapers into the sky, but instead underground, to solve the rising problems of population, dangerous weather, climate change, and finding additional space for developing industries. And hey, once it's dug, the temperatures of underground spaces are much more tame and easy to control, and can be built in more efficient ways when it comes to housing, amenities, and energy. But still, for an entire company to build a massive underground kindergarten around a gaping hole that it dug in the earth would cost an absurd amount, as countries are finding that the cost to build a single 300-meter skyscraper underground runs around $800 million, while others find that the cost to build an underground science building that houses up to 4,500 researchers costing in the upwards to nearly $100 billion. So it's likely that Ban Ban's ambitious underground kindergarten could be valued at somewhere around $150 billion. But this doesn't matter. It's just a drop in the bucket, as both the monsters and even the facility aren't Ban Ban Co.'s real asset, aren't their real money maker. No, they're just a side effect, a means to an end to see what their real asset can do, being the barrels and barrels of Givanium that we find lying all over the facility, a substance, an element so unique that it is said to contain an infinite amount of protons and thus electrons and neutrons within it, which first of all is impossible, as this would imply that it would also have an infinite mass, and would see the entire Earth being attracted towards it, molding itself around the barrels of Givanium and reforming the Earth with the Givanium at its center. So we have to simply take Givanium's infinity symbol as the fact that the researchers found it to contain an absurd amount of electrons and protons that it is so thick with and is somehow so foreign in its structure that the researchers simply say it has a lot. Specifically, the infinity symbol can be used to designate something that is able to grow without any known boundaries or limits, and thus in research they found that this infinitely growing substance, when coupled with any sort of DNA and possibly by itself, is able to grow anything and everything that DNA codes for in whatever space it's been provided. That Givanium is, in fact, an infinitely growing substance. And oh boy, the price, the money, the fame that this substance would rain down from the sky would put Ban Ban Co. on the map. No, they would be the map. This stuff would instantly be the most valuable substance on the planet, being able to perform unknown miracles, perhaps being able to heal injuries, regrow damaged organs and tissues, who knows what. Givanium's only limit to its cost would be what it's actually fully capable of doing once thoroughly researched. Putting a number to what little we've currently seen it do already would send it skyrocketing past the most expensive material we can contain on Earth, being another insane substance called endohedral fullerenes that are on the cutting edge of treating cancer and other technologies that cost $167 million per gram, and put Givanium somewhere below antimatter that cost $80 trillion per gram that currently cannot be stored. With Givanium's current capabilities for growth, splicing together different DNA to give inanimate objects life, intelligence, and superpowers, and its mountain of untapped potential, this stuff could reasonably cost a hilarious $500 billion to $1 trillion per gram, or the liquid equivalent equivalent that is 0.03 ounces. And if we continue to look at just how much Givanium Ban Ban Co. has stored, nay, has just lying around its hallways, casually sitting by its elevators in giant oversized barrels, as I sat and watched through every chapter to not only count how many barrels there are, but calculate the size and thus volume of every small, large, and mega-sized barrel, we find that based on the height of the player, aka the average Canadian female, being 177.7 centimeters or 5 feet 10 inches, and seeing that the player is approximately 2/3 the height of a single large barrel, making each large barrel about 237 centimeters tall with a diameter of 136 centimeters, thus having a total volume, a total storage capacity of 23,469 gallons of Givanium per barrel, with the smaller barrels holding 5,867 gallons, and then the mega-sized barrels holding nearly 90,000 gallons of Givanium per barrel. And after having spotted at least 96 different sized barrels, or otherwise 2,842,577 gallons of Givanium in counting, with more definitely to come, Ban Ban Co. would have the beyond stupid amount of 6.06 to 12.12, not in the billions, not in the trillions, or by the universe quadrillions, but 6 to 12 quintillion dollars. That's 18 frickin' zeros. More money than has ever existed across the face of the entire planet ever, is in circulation across an entire galactic republic, and more than enough for you to snag a swig of it on your way out from picking up the kid. So if we tack on the cost of everything else that Ban Ban's company has to our bigger number, this would give the Ban Ban Corporation a total net worth of 12 quintillion, 128 quadrillion, 328 trillion, 782 billion, 587 million, and $860,000. But if none of this was very interesting, then I saved an interesting fact for last. As utterly ridiculous as the Garten of Ban Ban's assets are, there exists one company, one magical corporation with unrivaled technology that has both unlocked the wallets of eager customers and the souls of eager kids just dying to go to it the nation over. The company that put the boomin' mascot horror Five Nights at Freddy's Fazbear Entertainment. So check out this video if you want to see Fazbear Entertainment's untold amount of riches. See you in the next one.